Good morning and welcome to another basic drawing class. With Halloween right around the corner coming up this weekend, I thought it would be appropriate to do something in that vein. So to begin with, I thought we would look at pumpkins. So a very easy way to begin, I'll show you, we'll do this in stages. So there's your first stage. Now it can be basically a circle, or it can be a more of an oval. Okay, and then so I'm normally, as you know, you begin by drawing a light, but if I draw a light here, you can't see it, so I'm just going to draw, and then you need some kind of there you go. And then finally, you want to carve the pumpkin. So we're not going to do any carving here, but we will. So I'm going to change those a little bit. So you've got an eye here and an eye here, and then and of course, there's many ways to do that. So basically, that's what we're looking at. So I want to take this out, and now I've got some that I drew on here. Lightly, and just to give you a little idea of some different ways to go. So we'll begin with, so I drew lightly here, maybe you can see it, maybe not, I don't know. So I'm going to do this again. And then here again, the eyes can be different, the mouth can be different. The point being that we're looking at some different ways of, if you were carving, what you want to do. And it's all about creativity. So, and the other thing is, as you're just drawing these, the more that you draw them, the easier it gets. And so the practice is important. Doing something more than one or two times. So and then we'll try another one. So it's a pretty easy approach. I have a picture from the basic book that I took it from, which is the same one that we use when we were doing cards, which reminds me that, you know, if you were making a Halloween card, it would be appropriate to use a pumpkin So instead of actually just doing a small card, I wanted to use the 9 by 12 paper so that it's easier for you to see. So you can make a card with these, or you can just make a picture, or whatever you want to do. So, and then a little bit different in terms of the mouth on this one, because that's really where a lot of the difference comes from. Sometimes there's a nose, sometimes there's no nose. So there's just so many ways you can do it. Okay, so that's your basic pumpkin, okay? So now what we want to do, I want to take, now the paper that I was using there, as you can see, is very thin. It's like 50-pound press paper. This is an 80-pound press paper, and so for pen and ink and or for a lot of erasing, it's really good to have a good quality paper. So I'm going to just take the pen. This is the pen that I've used, the Micron pen that I've used. So 0.5 is the size. And I'm going to do this in the middle of the page, because this is basically what we're going to do here. So we're going to okay, now we've got this one here and this one here. I'm going to go ahead and put some eyes in now so that we know where those are going to be. I'm not going to use a nose. I think I am just going to do it like this, and then that line, this line, and then so there's the basic pumpkin that we're going to begin with. So what I want to do here then is I want to color it, and so I've got an orange here that I want to use, and so part of what I want to do here is I want to give it some color, but part of the process of anything that you do in drawing or painting is how much patience do you have to try and get the result that you're really looking for. And so part of what we're doing here is we're doing a drawing, and going back to, you know, the basic principles that we've talked about, we're dealing with a basic shape, right? A circle or an oval, depending on which way you're doing it. And now that we're using a colored pencil, remember that beveled edge that you get. Now I already had a beveled edge on here, so I didn't need to do anything with the colored pencil on a tablet to get that beveled edge, but you know how we've done that in the past. And so part of what I'm trying to impart here, besides the drawing part, excuse me, is, are you willing, and everybody's different, everybody's in a different place in terms of your drawing skills, but also in your willingness to take it to whatever level that you want it to be. That's totally up to you. So, and we're going to get to that in just a minute here. I want to get some color on here so you can see what we're dealing with and what we're after. Okay, then I want to, now I have a black here. So we're going to black in the eyes and the mouth so we can see what we're getting. So your heavier paper is much better when you're doing not only pen and ink, but colored pencil. Okay, and then I have a green that I want to add up here. Okay, so there we have something, right? So let's say that you see these lines here where it goes into the pumpkin. So if you wanted to make it to where that would be darker because of the lighting, all right? So let's say you decided you wanted to give it some shape, right? So we haven't talked too much about lighting, and because it's kind of hard to set up a lighting situation and show you the lighting, and so we haven't gotten into that too much. But anyway, so let's say this is going to give it some shape, but the other thing that I see here is, well, look at the richness of the color. So now I've decided, well, wait a minute, that looks more like a pumpkin because of the richness of color. So instead of worrying about giving it some shape, I'm going to go ahead and give it a richer color, which, as I recall doing some colored pencil work in the past, I haven't wanted to take a lot of time to get it as dark and rich in color, but what I'm emphasizing here is that in order to create something that you can take it to the level that you are happy with the way it is. And so, for example, just for me right now, when I look at this and I look at that, it's like two different worlds. And so I'm much happier to take the time, because that's what it takes right now. It's going to take that much more time for me to go back over this whole thing And there's the difference between one person and another. Are you willing to take the time, whatever that is, it doesn't matter how long it takes, to get it to look the way that you want it to look? That is important in terms of drawing as anything else. That patience is what it takes to draw something that is okay, or to take it to the next level to where, oh wow, look at the difference between this and that. And that's part of what I'm trying to impart here. Is when I was preparing this lesson, that's what developed for me was, you know, unfortunately, because I don't have you in a classroom situation, which I have had, and I prefer. Let me just sharpen this a little bit more, because it takes whatever it takes. And then I'm going to use the scratch pad over here to get that beveled edge again, because that, as you recall, is what gives you the smooth, so that you can blend and get a solid color without being very streaky. Now, the texture of the paper is another thing. That gives you certain limitations. As you can see, when you look at different areas, it's not like solid orange, because the paper has a texture. And depending on what kind of paper, is it multimedia paper that you can use watercolor, pencil, pen and ink, or is it, so there's different kinds of paper for different purposes. Now, this is a pretty good quality paper. It's not real expensive, but it's high enough quality. Like I say, it's 80-pound press, so it gives you the ability to work it in order to get a drawing down where you want. You've got to be able to work on that over and over until you've taken it to the level that you want to take it. So you can see this last little bit, what a difference it is between that level of color and this level of color. So that's part of what this lesson is about you, and I'm not trying to tell you where or how far you should take this. It's what I call artistic license. Is like, you're the artist at whatever level you are, whether you're the most beginner or you're not, you're much farther along than that. You're the artist, and so for you to be able to take it to the level that you're capable of, or to the level that you will develop as you're doing it right now. So that's strictly up to you. So I'm going to look at that and say, okay, that's pretty good. I've got a much richer color on there than I had, so I'm much happier with that. But then that shows how light the blacks are in terms of the eyes and the mouth. And so now I've got to bring that up to the level that the actual pumpkin is, the color of the pumpkin. So we want everything to be consistent. So, that takes care of that. So, see how much more that stands out? So, in any drawing that you do, whether it's just you're just drawing a card, or if you're doing a drawing or a painting, it is totally up to you how far you want to take it. And I know that a lot of people, well, I don't know if I should say a lot, but some people are impatient. And so how far do you want to just stop and get on to the next thing? Which is fine. I'm going to sharpen this a little bit. That's totally up to you. Everybody's different, and I'm not here to tell anybody how they should be doing their drawing. But I am encouraging, or I would like to encourage anyone who's interested to think about the way you normally do things and the possibility that you're maybe willing to take it to another level, see how far you can take it. So, okay, so I'm going to say that's okay with that. And then finally, we're going to add a richer color to the stem. And I think it's becoming very clear that by being willing to take a little more time, the difference between what we started with and what we have is it's like night and day. And so that's part of today's lesson as well, okay? So now, for the very last part of this, I want to take it, if you remember the manuscript drawing and stuff that we did, embellishing the letters or whatever. And so I want to just do a little of that right here. And that is just to show that, okay, there's one more thing that we can do to, and here again, you know that there's all different kinds of embellishment. Right here, I'm just, as you can see, just doing some leaves, which is appropriate for a pumpkin, right? So we're just going to do that, and then we're going to do a little something over here. So it's just a way of adding a little something, and you can add a whole lot more. We just don't have the time to do a whole lot, but I want to, and then here in this particular situation, you can make these leaves as dark or as light, depending on whether you want that little line in there to show up or not. So So it's just, and as you remember, there are all kinds of different kinds of embellishments. There's flowers, there's just so many different things that you can do. I'm just using this as a simple example of what you can do just to add a little interest to your pumpkin. So whether you're doing this to make yourself a card for somebody, or if you're actually just working on a drawing or a painting, you can add much more to this than I'm doing here, but just to give you the basic. And so because we don't have enough time, I'm going to pass on the creatures, the different kinds of faces that you can create, the monsters and whatever. And because I don't have the time to actually go into that, I do want to say, as I just darken this a little bit more, that if you were with me when we did the drawings, the portraits, the faces, using the grid system to show you how to get the proportions from the front view and the side view. Well, what I want to impart in terms of doing the monster faces is that to draw a beautiful face, it takes not only the patience, but everything needs to be in proportion. The lips have to be beautifully done, the eyes beautifully done, everything in proportion. That's how you get a beautiful face, and that's a lot harder for a lot of people to do. But a monster face, the eyes can be so out of proportion and in the wrong position, and the mouth and the teeth are raggedy and whatever. And so the difference between drawing a monster face and a beautiful face is like night and day. You can do anything you want. So even though I don't have time to go into that, I think you understand what I'm saying in terms of the difference between drawing a portrait of somebody and making it look just like that person, or just drawing a beautiful face. The difference between a monster and beautiful is night and day. So anyway, that's the lesson for today. Hope you have a nice Halloween, and thank you for your time. All right.